Okay, now on to those case studies I mentioned, which relate directly to fairness and proper process. So, Julia, as you probably can understand, especially as a diverse woman, level playing field is critical to any proper functioning market. And obviously, I have very high expectations of you and the London Stock Exchange in ensuring things such as proper process and fairness. So, the questions I have relate largely to PrimaryBid and lessons learned from the investment in that, and to RetailBook. Please note that I am also posing these questions to the parties named in this video and in this article. So posing largely to RetailBook and to Peel Hunt, from whom RetailBook was spun, and to Augmentum Fintech, who is advised by Peel Hunt, who has made a 4.5 million investment in RetailBook. So fairness is very important to me as an individual investor. It's very important to me as a member of the public, and it's important to me as an entrepreneur. It's also important to me as a mentor and advisor to other entrepreneurs, especially when I know there are hundreds and thousands of hungry entrepreneurs who battle really hard, work really hard to look for investments. So it's just so important that there is that level playing field for everyone. And certainly for me as an individual, I am going through some very difficult lived experience that, to be honest with you, is really fueling my fight, so to speak, for fairness and equality in finance and investing for all. Because let me tell you, many individuals continue to be unfairly treated within financial services. And this is despite of measures such as consumer duty. But that is probably for a different conversation. But for this one, I want to zoom in on fairness when it comes to London Stock Exchange and London Stock Exchange Group investments and business partnerships, because this will be relevant to me as well as the founder of an organization promoting inclusive engagement and wanting to propose solutions to you, such as the LSE Cafe that I've mentioned before. Just zooming in on PrimaryBid and the London Stock Exchange's investment in PrimaryBid, my understanding is that at its peak valuation, PrimaryBid was reported as having a valuation of 500 million pounds, but by early 2024, last year, LSEG had to write down its investment, which totaled 9% of all of PrimaryBid, by 87%. So this would imply that PrimaryBid's valuation had gone from 500 million pounds to 65 million pounds. So this prompts numerous questions, especially given the fact that PrimaryBid now is in serious difficulty, and the co-founder of PrimaryBid, as well as 7 other senior members of PrimaryBid, have now jumped ship, as this publication states, to RetailBook. And RetailBook seems to be supported very strongly by the London Stock Exchange. So want to understand, lessons learned. But firstly, in regards to the primary bid investment, what was the investment rationale? What was the due diligence process? And how was performance monitored? And what were the mechanisms that were in place? And I guess most importantly is, what lessons have LSE and LSEG learned? Now, strategic partnerships, you also have one with Flow, FLOWW. I think seems like a really great platform for private company capital raising. And then there's RetailBook that you are getting very close with. So I guess I would like to understand these questions here, particularly, are you, what is the process? What is LSE's strategy for identifying and partnering with businesses, especially given how many fintechs there are? So even in RetailBook, it has competitors. There's, for example, Winterflood Wrap. There's also Investor Meet Company, who have a service called BookBuild. Yes, it's secondary listings they're largely involved in. And then there's also startups that basically may be in the periphery that you haven't heard of. So this whole open call shortlisting process and evaluation panel would be good to identify and understand if it exists. Equity and inclusion, very important. Entrepreneurs, especially those raising capital, how is this employed when you're looking at the likes of PrimaryBid and RetailBook? And has the LSE published its criteria or governance process for selecting partners? I recognize you have LSEG Foundation as well, so it'd be good to understand that. And that seems like such a great initiative. And I'm fully for LSE and LSEG supporting the community and creating partnerships. I guess I'm just really keen to understand what the mechanisms are for those things and how fair they are, especially given the fact that even an American hedge fund, Saba Capital Management, for example, has called London the city entrenched. And to be honest with you, from time to time, I would agree with them. So as diverse individuals, I'm sure we are both extra cognizant of points like fairness. So just zooming in on RetailBook. So this is particularly pertinent because of the many different connections and relationships. I value my relationships deeply, and I'm glad that you do too. But I think there's a difference between valuing relationships and managing conflicts of interest. And I think it's that distinction that we need to be looking at. So when it comes to RetailBook, I'd like to understand what lessons have been learned from the PrimaryBid situation. And really, the details around this beg me to question the situation, given the fact that RetailBook is now largely comprised of ex-PrimaryBid senior executives. They have secured £4.5 million from a Peel Hunt advised VC. However, knowing how much money was raised by PrimaryBid and how they are doing today, it makes me concerned that they will run out of cash. And of course, we'll be seeking more investment. So if and when that time comes, will you release information on any investment or other initiatives you undertake. And again, disclose the fairness process that you are undertaking. I hope that makes sense, and that this is understandable and clear as to why I'm posing these questions, especially again as an entrepreneur, member of the public, and an investor in UK capital markets, including in LSEG. So, in summary, I have numerous questions for you, but again, as I have mentioned before, please take this as an extension of support for you. I want to contribute to the regeneration of UK capital markets, particularly through the increased involvement and participation of everyday individual investors who, as Aberdeen have found, could contribute an extra £3.5 trillion to our capital markets over time. So it is worthwhile to make the effort, especially in the absence of institutional capital, to engage the retail investor and general public in capital markets. It just makes perfect sense to make that extra effort to include and to inspire everyday individuals into participating in UK capital markets. And the London Stock Exchange certainly could have a great and important place in making that happen. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, for all the efforts you are making, and certainly for the inspiration that you provide people like me. And I look very much forward to continuing to engage with you. Well, I look very much forward to one day actually sitting down with you and discussing all of these things. Have a great rest of the day.